Tonight, the Supreme Court has struck down President Trump's sweeping tariffs, sending shockwaves through Washington and the nation. This decision redefines the balance of power, challenging the president's use of emergency powers and forcing a national conversation about who controls America's economic future. The tariffs, imposed in early 2025, reshaped trade and sparked fierce debate. Supporters saw protection, critics saw higher prices, and strained alliances. Legal challenges quickly escalated, culminating in this landmark Supreme Court showdown. We'll break down what this ruling means for your wallet, American businesses, and the government's finances. More than a legal ruling, this is a turning point for America's economic and political future. To grasp the Supreme Court's decision, let's clarify tariffs. They're taxes on imported goods, paid by American companies. These taxes are essentially a way for the government to control the flow of goods into the country and protect domestic industries from foreign competition. These costs are then passed on to consumers, making everyday items more expensive. In 2025, President Trump raised tariffs dramatically, pushing the average rate from 2% to over 17%. This was a significant increase that affected a wide range of products. A universal 10% tariff hit most nations, with extra taxes on countries like Canada, China, and Mexico. This move was part of a broader strategy to renegotiate trade deals and address what the administration saw as unfair trade practices. The goal was to reduce the trade deficit and bring manufacturing back home, creating more jobs for American workers. However, the result was that businesses faced soaring costs, often passing them to consumers through higher prices. This created a ripple effect throughout the economy. Everyday goods, from cars to clothes, became more expensive, raising the cost of living for many Americans. This was particularly hard on low-income families who already struggled to make ends meet. On the flip side, tariffs also became a huge revenue source, generating over $200 billion for the government in 2025 alone. This money was used to fund various government programs and initiatives. Monthly collections soared, but critics noted this money came from Americans, not foreign countries. This sparked a debate about the true cost of tariffs and who ultimately pays the price. The White House argued the revenue was vital for the national debt, helping to reduce the financial burden on future generations. But for families and businesses, the tariffs meant tough choices and tighter budgets. Many had to cut back on spending or find ways to absorb the higher costs. The debate over who really pays and who benefits set the stage for the legal battle. This was a contentious issue that divided opinions across the country. The impact was immediate and widespread, touching nearly every American. From the cost of groceries to the price of a new car, tariffs affected daily life in numerous ways. Understanding tariffs is key to understanding why this Supreme Court case mattered so much. It wasn't just about trade, it was about the economic well-being of the entire nation. The legal fight centered on the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, or IEEPA, a 1977 law meant for targeted action against foreign threats. President Trump declared a national emergency over border issues, using IEEPA to justify broad tariffs. Critics argued this stretched the law far beyond its intent, letting the president bypass Congress's constitutional authority over taxes and trade. Lawsuits claimed this was a dangerous power grab, blurring the separation of powers. The core question: can a president use IEEPA to impose sweeping economic policy without Congress? Lawmakers from both parties worried about the precedent. Future presidents could use the same logic for any tax. The Supreme Court's decision would define the limits of presidential power in the modern era. The battle over tariffs erupted in the lower courts, where a coalition of business groups, importers, and trade associations filed lawsuits. They argued that the president had exceeded his legal authority, using emergency powers in a way Congress never intended. The courthouse steps became a stage for heated debate, with both sides rallying public support. In May 2025, two separate federal courts issued landmark rulings, declaring the tariffs illegal. Judges found that the president had misapplied the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to set sweeping economic policy, something only Congress is supposed to do. Yet despite these rulings, the tariffs remained in effect while the government appealed. Billions of dollars continued to flow into federal coffers, as importers paid the disputed duties and businesses scrambled to adapt. Across the country, companies faced uncertainty, unsure whether the tariffs would be refunded or become permanent costs. By late August, a federal appeals court also ruled against the administration, increasing pressure and making Supreme Court review all but certain. The stakes were enormous. Billions of dollars, the nation's economic future, and the very principle of separation of powers were all on the line. Both sides began preparing for a historic showdown at the Supreme Court, assembling teams of top lawyers and constitutional experts. The White House maintained that the president's actions were fully within the law, but momentum was shifting as legal experts and the public weighed in. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, setting the stage for a decision that could redefine the boundaries of presidential power and reshape American governance for years to come. Ultimately, the outcome would determine who truly controls the nation's economic levers: Congress, the president, or the courts. The Supreme Court ruled President Trump's use of IEPA for broad tariffs unconstitutional. The majority found IEPA was meant for targeted emergencies, not sweeping economic policy. Allowing such use would erase Congress's constitutional power over commerce and taxes. The court stressed that persistent issues like trade deficits are for Congress to address, not the president alone. Upholding the tariffs, the justices warned, would let any president bypass Congress on major economic issues. The ruling reaffirmed checks and balances, making clear that only Congress can impose such broad taxes. The decision wasn't about the merits of tariffs, but about who has the authority to impose them. The end of the tariffs means immediate relief for American families and businesses. After years of higher prices, many households will finally see their budgets stretch a little further. The impact will be felt quickly, as the cost of everyday essentials and popular products starts to fall. Prices on imported goods, electronics, shoes, groceries are expected to drop as tariffs disappear. This means that families shopping for back-to-school supplies, new gadgets, or even just their weekly groceries could notice savings almost immediately. Retailers may also offer more discounts as their own costs go down. Economists predict inflation will slow, giving consumers more spending power. With less money going toward basic expenses, people may have more to spend on dining out, travel, or saving for the future. This extra breathing room could help families recover from recent economic challenges. Businesses relying on imports will see costs fall, boosting competitiveness and potentially leading to lower prices or more hiring. Small businesses in particular may find it easier to expand or invest in new products thanks to reduced expenses. The average tariff rate will drop sharply, easing pressure on thousands of companies. This could mean more stable jobs and even new opportunities for workers across the country. Some industries, like steel, may face tougher competition, but most will benefit from lower costs. While a few sectors might need to adapt, the majority of American businesses are expected to thrive in this new environment. Companies must now readjust supply chains, creating short-term uncertainty. There may be some bumps along the way as businesses adapt to new suppliers and changing global markets. In the long run, experts expect the economy to grow more efficiently, with projections of a $95 billion annual boost to GDP. This growth could translate into more jobs, higher wages, and a stronger economic foundation for the country. The transition may be bumpy, but the prevailing view is that lower tariffs mean greater economic stability. Over time, communities across America could see more vibrant local economies and increased opportunities. For most Americans, the ruling should mean a lighter load at the checkout, and a little more peace of mind when it comes to making ends meet. While consumers benefit, the government faces a massive budget shortfall. Tariffs brought in over $200 billion in 2025, helping offset a $3 trillion tax bill. With the Supreme Court's ruling, that revenue stream vanishes overnight. The government may also have to refund billions collected illegally, creating an administrative nightmare. The loss could total $1.7 trillion over the next decade, forcing Congress to consider spending cuts, new taxes, or more debt. None of these options are popular, setting up fierce budget battles ahead. The court prioritized constitutional principles over short-term fiscal pain. Now, policymakers must grapple with a fundamentally altered financial reality. The ruling's economic impact will ripple through Washington for years. This Supreme Court decision is about more than tariffs. It's a defining moment for presidential power. By rejecting the administration's broad use of IEPA, the court reaffirmed that Congress, not the president, controls economic policy and taxation. The ruling checks decades of expanding executive authority and reasserts Congress's constitutional role. Had the court ruled otherwise, future presidents could have bypassed Congress on any tax or economic issue. The decision preserves the legislative process and prevents a dramatic expansion of executive power. It forces a national reckoning on the balance between swift executive action and deliberative democracy. The ruling clarifies that Congress holds the ultimate economic power in the U.S. While the economic fallout will be debated, the constitutional message is clear: the power of the purse remains with the people's representatives.